Hey, what's up? First off, the physics and handling work is subtle where it needs to be and bold where it counts. Throttle response has been made more robust, so your inputs feel cleaner and less twitchy, and downshift protection logic has been simplified and loosened a little with a percentage allowance for over-revving. Essentially, GameStop's being overzealous about protecting engines when you're trying to hustle a shift under pressure. Automatic gear behaviors and the throttle blip assists got fixes too, which helps the car settle into downshifts without surprising snaps or stalls, and tire preheating temps were lowered across classes, so the way rubber comes up to temperature feels less abrupt and more manageable during warming laps. Thus, those are the kinds of changes that don't necessarily make your lap time jump by seconds overnight, but they do change how reliably you can push into the limit and expect consistent reactions. Now, the meat of this patch is the GT3 tire overhaul. The tire model has been reworked to give a far more realistic representation of slip and grip angles, and that shows up in how the car communicates when it's approaching the edge. Rather than suddenly breaking away, there's a more natural transition between grip and slide, with lateral slip being allowed in a more believable way, while excessive longitudinal slip is reined in. Traction control and ABS logic were rebalanced with the same philosophy. Keep the systems useful, but not intrusive, so you can feel the tires working and manage slides with steering and throttle, instead of having electronics either completely take over or do nothing at all. The practical outcome is that many pre-existing custom GT3 setups will now behave differently. If you've got a setup you love before this patch, expect to rework camber, pressures, and suspension to suit the new tire character. That's normal after a model change. Setups that were compensating for old quirks will need fresh tuning to make the car sing again. Beyond GT3, there's focused work on LMDh and a few other classes. The traction control on LMDh has been reworked end-to-end, so the range of settings now actually matters. TC settings 2 through 10 give a usable spectrum, and the downshift protection has been improved to stop strange behavior, including a specific fix for a bug that could stall the engine when shifting into neutral. GTO saw a relaxing of TC so drivers can extract more performance and influence at the limit. Back-end classics like Group 5 and Group C had adjustments to slip angles, plus increased clutch slip-on downshifts to help stability when you're shedding speed aggressively. These aren't small tune-ups, they're targeted corrections to how the drivetrain and electronics interplay when things get hot and busy on braking zones. Input and force feedback changes are worth flagging because they affect the feel at the wheel immediately. Logitech TrueForce is now disabled by default on PC, which should prevent some of the reported oddities where users were getting inconsistent or overly aggressive feedback from certain wheelbases. Overall, FFB strength has been balanced across the GT3 class for a more consistent baseline, and there's also improved behavior for more wet track conditions, so the steering gives you clearer cues about grip in the rain. There was also a bug fix that stopped the mouse from selecting a setup when large numbers of setups were present, so navigating big lists is less annoying now. If you've been frustrated by ambiguous feel or selection bugs, these changes are tailored to make things smoother and more predictable. The patch also tidies up UI, online, and AI elements, so your race sessions are more stable and readable. EDP data transmission had incorrect constants getting sent, and those have been fixed. The player stats menu navigation and readability got polished, and importantly, multiplayer stability was addressed with fixes for opponent ghosting and for players being pulled into the wrong lobby. AI got a few quality of life improvements as well. Grid capacity at São Paulo was increased on PC to support up to 32 AI cars, and racing line behavior was refined on multiple circuits so the non-player field behaves more sensibly around traffic and rubbering in. Trackside visuals and penalty detection zones were tuned too, and there are some small but satisfying fixes to vehicle art, driver animations, and Motec display issues like tire temp reads and flicker. All of these changes make single-player races feel more polished and online sessions less chaotic. What I really like about this kind of patch is that it respects the simulation loop. Tires, electronics, driver inputs, and the environment are all interdependent, so changing one thing often requires a thoughtful set of supporting fixes, and that's what this release does. You'll notice it first in the way the car communicates the limit. It's less binary, more nuanced, and then in the little annoyances it fixes, like setup selection via mouse or Motec flicker. Some of the tweaks will need you to spend time with the setup screen again, tune pressures and camber, and maybe soften or stiffen suspension to match the new tire behavior. But once you do, the reward is a drivability curve that feels fairer and more expressive. That's the long and short of it, a technical, driver-focused update that prioritizes predictability and realism, with practical fixes across FFB, input, AI, and online to make the whole package feel more consistent. Take a couple of test laps, give your favorite GT3 a fresh setup pass, and you'll see where the changes were intended to land.